me down.
Live.
Peace and blessings, everybody. Love and light to you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the book launch for the one and only Tamika D. Mallory. Her book is entitled State of Emergency. We know for a fact that that is a very apt title. We've seen not just the past 4 or 5 years, but for decades, we seem to have been fighting the same fights over and over again. Just the names change. And I'm going to keep it funky. Republicans and Democrats. I'm sorry if we get a little hot here, but we got to keep it real. A lot of them say one thing, do another. Some of them don't even bother to say that thing. I hope y'all get your book. I got 2 in my household. It's my birthday, and this was my birthday gift, getting these 2 books, State of Emergency. Whether it is all over the country or here in New York State, where I am the public advocate of New York City. It is one of 3 citywide elected officials. I'm proud to be an activist elected official. But more importantly, I'm proud to have helped lead on so many of the discussions around policing, around gun violence, around the people who need their voice heard the most, around Black and brown communities, immigrant communities, communities who have been left aside and, quite frankly, have been rejected in this space and underfunded, under-resourced on purpose. And I always say, I want to keep it real, people can hear me. Nobody who was born right now is responsible for the system of privilege that exists right now in America or New York State, New York City. But all of us, whoever we are responsible for the system that we give to the next generation. We have an opportunity now. Our next generation is looking at us, and they're going to ask us, what did we do to change the systems of inequity and injustice? And I'm proud to say I was hanging out with Tamika Mallory, and I was following the lead of some powerful Black women. And I was on my own birthday celebrating this sister and her book, State of Emergency. She's going to not only talk about this, but it's going to talk about what's in the book and what we can all do to move us forward so that everybody, every skin hue, every religion, whoever you love, can move forward on that freedom train. And I know the name of her organization is Until Freedom, and we know everybody has a seat on that freedom train. So thank you. I know there's going to be a powerful list of folks who are going to be speaking. I'm just so honored that she asked me to be one of them. Y'all are in for some amazing stuff tonight. Peace and blessings to you all. Love and light. Let's get it.
Thank you so much, Public Advocate Jumaane Williams, for kicking off our event tonight. Hi, my name is Sabir. I run events here at the Strand. Before we launch into tonight's panel discussion of Tamika D. Mallory's State of Emergency, How We Win in the Country We Built, I'd like to share a little bit of history about the Strand. The Strand was founded in 1927 by Benjamin Bass on 4th Avenue's Book Row. Stretching from Union Square to Astor Place, Book Row gradually dwindled from 48 bookstores until after 94 years, the Strand is a sole survivor. We want to thank all of you. Without our loyal community of book lovers, we wouldn't be here today. Tonight, we are thrilled to have with us Tamika D. Mallory for the launch of State of Emergency. Tamika will be joined by special guests Taraji P. Henson, Prabal Gurung, and Charlamagne the God. Tamika D. Mallory is a globally recognized civil rights activist, co-founder of Until Freedom and the historic Women's March, and author of State of Emergency. Taraji P. Henson is an Academy Award nominated and Golden Globe winning actor, writer, and producer. Prabal Gurung is a renowned fashion designer who launched his eponymous label in 2009. Mysonne Linen is an activist from NYC. Charlamagne the God is co-host on The Breakfast Club and publisher of Black Privilege Publishing. Please join me in welcoming our talent to the stage.
Thank you, Severe. Thank you to the Strand. Happy born day to my man Jumaane. Thank you.
I'm on a panel. Please don't knock.
They can hear you, Queen. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody who's here with us today, everybody who purchased a ticket to be on this virtual event tonight. Personally, I wish we didn't have to do virtual events. I'd rather be with you all in person, feeling the energy, feeling the love. I know so many people have for one of the most dynamic leaders we have on this planet today, Queen Tamika Mallory. Today is the launch of her book, State of Emergency, How to Win in the Country We Built. It's the first release off a book imprint that I'm proud to be at the helm of. Black Privilege Publishing. Salute to Atria Books and Shyman and Schuster for being my partners. And God couldn't have designed this any better. I mean, Tamika is somebody who I call my leader because she has given her life to service, and she's always out there on the front lines fighting for us. And this is work that she was born into. If you purchased the book and started to read it, then you know that already. Her parents were activists. They raised her in the movement. And when I say it's a privilege and honor to ride with her on this journey, you know, of telling her story, I'm more than thankful, you know. And you know, she this book is it's not a memoir. It's more of a how-to guide to navigate your way through like this wicked white supremacist system. But I promise you, I would not want to launch this imprint with anybody else other than Tamika. She's the embodiment of exactly the kind of voices I want to partner with. She's fearless, full of radical Black dignity, a public servant, and she has something to say that's going to benefit us all. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for purchasing a ticket. Thank you for purchasing a book, and we can get started. Everybody ready? Tamika, tell us, when did you feel the need to want to write this book? Did she freeze?
Yeah. Yep, she froze up a little bit.
Queen Mallory, can you hear us now? Hello?
Can you all hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Now we can.
Great. Okay, I'm sorry. I somehow or another I had a technical issue where I didn't hear much of what was stated, but I'm assuming by the fact that everyone is kind of just sitting here quiet that I'm supposed to be saying something right now. So, so much love to every single person that has joined. The folks who actually purchased tickets to be a part of this event. Let me first start by thanking all of you for participating, for being here with us, and for supporting State of Emergency, my labor of love and pain as my partner in this effort, Charlamagne the God would say. Of course, to the Strand Book Store, I am so appreciative of the fact that you all chose to support me and that you are hosting this event tonight. We know that the Strand is really rooted in so much history in New York. So many people love you all, and I'm just happy to know that the Strand is still standing, is still alive. I walked past the other day and saw people lined up outside looking at all the books, and I was so happy to see that the Strand is still alive and well as a staple in New York City. And of course, to my brother, P. Henson and Taraji P. Henson, Mysonne, who was my partner in justice, I won't say partner in crime. And then to this great designer, Prabal, who now I'm wearing everything and hoping to send me all the things. Yeah, there's something technical happening. Definitely something is happening. But hopefully you guys can still hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yes, though. Hi, sorry to interrupt.
So I'm just happy to be here with all of you, and I thank you so much, and so much love to every single person who has made this event happen tonight. And I cannot forget to thank the team of individuals who've been behind the scenes who also believe in State of Emergency.
Tamika, tell us when you feel the need. When did you feel the need to want to write State of Emergency? Did she freeze again?
Yeah. So sorry to interrupt. I'm just gonna take her off stage and then bring you back on, Tamika. Just as a warning, you're gonna be removed. To our audience, thank you for bearing with us. Our apologies, technical issues.
We ain't got nothing else to do.
Word.
We're here for Tamika's book. We ain't got nothing else to do.
Hey, Mike, talk about it though, right? Like, you know, you with Tamika every day, all day. You know, you've been with her for a very, very long time. How do you feel as a brother having her position?
Man, I'm so, first of all, I'm proud, man. And, I'm proud because I know what it took for her to do this in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of being in the streets on the front line, fighting for justice for so many different people, and then taking the time out, to say, what, this book is important. Understanding just the importance of the book along with the movement, and to see you two guys partnering on this situation is just added, elevation of love for it, man. She really put a lot into this book. Like, we would be on the road and she would leave off right after a protest where we probably almost got locked up or did get locked up, and she'd be like, yo, I'm gonna go to my room for 6 and 7 hours and just lock herself in and just write, man. It really put energy into this, man. She really put her love into this book. So, I'm happy to see it all come to fruition. The book is amazing. It really gives you like a real understanding of what time we are in now, and the need for this movement, and how everybody should try to show up, no matter who you are. It's a space for you in this movement, and that's what we always wanted to do when we started Until Freedom. We wanted people to feel like there was a place for them in the movement, because, being formerly incarcerated, being from the hip hop culture, I always seen the movement as something that was so pure that it didn't invite me. It represented me, but I didn't feel like I could speak, but this movement and leaders like Tamika Mallory showed me that I had a voice. When I came home, she said, your voice is needed. Like, you're the people that we're fighting for. You're the reason. Harry Belafonte said those directly impacted have to contribute to the solution. So she really embodies that, and she embraces everybody who wants to be involved in this movement and fight. She don't care if you're twerking or you working, if you used to be in the streets, whatever it is, as long as you want to see justice and equity for our people, man, she gonna embrace you, man. So that's the type of leader I want to follow.
Absolutely. Queen Taraji, thank you for joining us this evening. You're always using your platform to speak out on issues from, mental health to, injustice that happens to the Black community. What does Tamika mean to you?
Who, Taraji? Am I muted?
Oh, yeah.
You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah, I said Queen Taraji.
Oh,
what is that?
Oh, what does she mean to me? I mean, she's everything to me. She's strength. She lets me know that I'm not alone in my thoughts. She's a representation of the Black female voice. She represents it's okay to speak out, because I am guilty of not speaking my mind a lot of times because of being deemed as the attitudinal Black woman, or, the angry Black woman. But when you have something to say, I mean, we have every right to be angry. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, 100%.
But why is it when we express our feelings, it's looked upon as anger? We have a voice. Tamika Mallory represents our voice.
Absolutely. Prabal, what about you, brother?
To me, Tamika is someone who represents the future, but clearly also the present, and with an incredible, I would say, an homage to the history of our ancestors, collective ancestors. The struggle that they've been through, what they went through to put us in a position of privilege and opportunity and access, she's been able to understand. Not a lot of people with fame and, let's say, notoriety, they take this road of like serving themselves. But she has been out there for the community and just reaching out, and to me, when I look at her, she is the leadership that I personally, as a designer, as a person, have always believed in the matriarchal power that the world and the universe needs. She represents that. In the world that we're living today, where there's an absolute need for redefining patriarchy, because that is a root to so many patriarchy that is absolutely attached to and entrenched with the white supremacy. It is the cause of every issues that we're going through right now. It is the cause of it. And what Tamika, to me, represents is that a direct, I would say, an opposition of that, right? A full form of matriarchal power. And to me, she is an inspiration. To me, is how we should be, our access, privilege, connection. How do we use it, bring people together? And more than anything else, how do you build community with compassion? And that's what to me is, and that kind of leader, that's what she is for me.
Absolutely. I want to ask all of you a question. It's a simple question, but I need an honest answer because, none of us are same. None of us are the same, the way we were before the pandemic. So I'm going to ask all of y'all one simple question. I need an honest answer. How are you? Let's start with you, Queen Taraji.
I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay. I'm better than I was the last moment. And what I'm learning to do is to take one moment at a time. Because sometimes the day is makes me anxious. That's too much. I can only do one moment at a time. And in this moment right now, I'm good.
Absolutely. Prabal, what about you? How are you?
How are you is a loaded question, especially for us right now, because there are days where you feel like you can win it, you got it, you're out there, and then there are days that are triggering. Like, besides I live near Washington Square Park during the Black Lives Matter movement, and all the kids, everyone, I joined them, and so it was really inspiring. Then at the same time, as an Asian person, right now we're going through our own series of attacks that's happening. My mother lives right, in my building. She goes for walks, so I'm constantly worried about that. Then, this pandemic back home in Nepal, it has taken the worst toll. So it is all of that stuff. But having said that, it's triggering, yes. But one thing when I look in this particular moment, when I look at it, when I see leaders like all of you guys and Tamika, like I would say my leading emotion and thought is one of always gratitude, because that is the ultimate step towards hope and optimism and change. So I would say triggering and gratitude.
It's an honest, very honest answer, both of y'all. Mike, what about you? How are you, brother?
I listen to that question. Like, I've been listening to you a lot talk about mental health, and I'm one of those old school. You always strong. You don't show weakness. Being incarcerated, I had to put up a wall for 7 years. Like, when you're surrounded by killers and everything, you can't not be okay, right? So what I start realizing, I've normalized trauma, right? I realized that I've normalized it and I've internalized it. Even when I'm not okay, I make myself believe I'm okay, right? So mentally, I'll be like, I'm good. And then I find myself being weak at times, not really. Other people will be like, yo, something on your mind. And I know I'm going through something, but I've mentally convinced myself that I'm okay. So I'm really in a soul searching process for myself right now. Like, I'm really thinking about seeking therapy to deal with this unaddressed trauma that I'm dealing with every day, constant trauma that I'm dealing with, like somebody ringing the doorbell while I'm on this right now. It's just a bunch of things that I'm dealing with. So I can say, if my normal answer would be I'm okay. I know that what I deal with regularly, and then the trauma that we take on from this work, that I can't really be okay.
Impossible.
You know what I'm saying? It's impossible for me to actually be all the way okay. I have to have some level of something. So, I don't know. I can't really answer that question honestly.
You just answered it honestly, very honestly.
Wow.
Tamika, I'm gonna ask you the same question I just asked everybody. I check on you often, and I need this honest answer. How are you?
Yeah, I have my days. I see Erica Ford in the chat, and she's the person that I call to tell her all my problems and to tell her that I want to fight people and everything else, because I'm human and we go through a lot. We deal with people attacking us. We deal with days when we're up, days when we're down. We're dealing with families, which is hard, being there, sitting with George Floyd's family. waiting for a verdict that all of us, we saw the video, we know what the verdict should have been, but people didn't know. They didn't feel good. Black America was on our, pins and needles. And imagine if you felt that in your gut, how the family members were feeling while we were there watching and waiting with all the anxiety. We were with them for 3 or 4 days, just, looking into their eyes and knowing that they were hopeful, but still struggling and not sure. That stuff gets into your system. It gets into your spirit. And it hurts. And then, we know that sometimes we have to fight our own people to help our people. And so there's a lot of elements. And, just today, the computer decides it doesn't want to work. So that stresses you out too. There's always something. But I will say that young people give me a lot of hope. Like being around so many young people, talking to them, I see that the things that I feel is so challenging, they don't really see the same obstacles in every situation. And so that does make me feel okay, because I know that there are people coming behind us that are going to have a different flow for how they operate and how they work together with people from all different backgrounds.
Was this therapeutic to write?
Yes, it was very therapeutic to write, but it was even more, let's be 100% honest. It was a lot of hard work, and it took a lot of discipline, and it was also very humbling to write the book. Where it was therapeutic was reading it. When I first got the first manuscript back and had the opportunity to go through it and see the work that I put in come to fruition, I knew then that I was able to accomplish something that at times before this, I didn't think I could do. And I knew then that, like, okay, I can actually do this, that I actually do have a voice. There's something about writing that lets you know you have a voice. And I would suggest that anyone, don't wait until you feel like you've got a viral moment or you're someone that is important in someone's eyes. If you feel you have a story, write it down, because it will definitely bless another person that needs your story specifically for the challenges that they're facing in their lives.
Mice and you, Tamika, y'all both touched on this. Watching all this Black death is traumatizing. Really impacts our mental state. I would like to ask Taraji, like, what tips would you give, Black people in regard to dealing with all this trauma we see?
To first recognize that this is trauma. Recognize it. You're not okay. I remember when I first, there was a hesitation for me to even join the world of social media back when Twitter first popped off. Just because I know me, and it just felt very intrusive. But as life would have it in the business, you need it, right?
Yeah.
But now I'm starting to feel some kind of way when I pick this phone up. It's love-hate, because I know that if I give it that kind of power, it can alter my moods. So I have to be careful when I pick this thing up. And I'm not even just talking about social media. People can come at you wrong in a text.
Yeah.
Things get lost in translation. This thing here has become, it rules our lives. The pit, that empty feeling you feel when you can't find it. So I'm just trying to put this in its perspective and not give it so much power. And I'm telling you, that social media bit can take you from a great moment when you wake up in the morning and just scrolling. One bad post will take you to 0.0. So you just have to be very careful. And I really empathize, and I really feel for this younger generation, because they're being raised on this. Like, this is you see more of this than, hey, how you doing? And that's alarming to me. I just really, a lot of the work that we do with the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation is founded upon the youth, because I feel like that's where we can make the most lead way in this mental health industry. Because a lot of the elders, a lot of us, we are kind of set in our ways, So there's an urgency when it comes to children, and I don't know, maybe because I'm a mother too, but we gotta save our future. And this We just got to be really careful with that, because I suffer from PTSD every time I scroll and find out there's another hashtag.
Absolutely.
I mean, it does something to me. It sends me to a place where I can't sleep because I'm worried. I'm constantly worried about my son. That's every day, 24 hours a day, living in trauma, in a traumatic state, anxiety, if you will. That's crazy. And we all feel that.
Mm-hmm.
We all feel it. And now more so than ever, because we don't have as many distractions as we had before. Girl, let's go to the club. Let's dance this stuff away. For some reason, we're here and we all have to deal with it. It's a state of fucking emergency.
That's right. That's right. You know, Tamika, you dedicated the book to your son, Tariq. I was going to ask you and Taraji, as mothers of Black men, does it scare you to have to raise these young kings in America?
Absolutely.
It's terrifying. You know, and here I am, and I know that Taraji will agree. I'm big and bad. I talk good stuff. You know, I'm out here. I'm ready to go up against the police. I'm ready to do whatever I have to do, and even prepared to give my life for what I believe in. But when it comes to my child, I'm broken, and I'm saying, sweetheart, please don't argue. They might be wrong. It doesn't matter. Just do what you have to do. Put your hands up, say yes, sir, no, sir, do whatever is necessary to get home to me, and then I'll take care of it from there. And that's kind of confusing, right? Because on one hand, my son sees me as being this powerful force, and he's like, Ma, you know, if they come at me, I'm gonna stand up like a man. And I'm like, please, because I don't want to see my child's life taken. And that's a terrifying place to be. And it's also, again, to your point, Taraji, it's the PTSD, because you are literally stripping your Black son of his manhood so that he can go out in the world and come home alive. And it doesn't feel good, because you want to tell your child, stand up, straighten your back, be a man, don't allow people to disrespect you or to harm you. But we know that the world that we live in, if you have a certain type of posture while you're walking these streets, people are afraid of Black men. And also there's some who just want to hurt you. And I try to save him all the time by, you know, what I think is unfortunately actually stripping him of his manhood. And it's a really painful place to be when you are a Black mother having those conversations with your Black son.
Especially when there's no Black male to help, to beat the battle. And because as a mother and as a female, we live in a state of fear because we're the mother, like, right? So where is that iron fist to help, you know, because I'm sure Black men have a different, what they tell their sons. They have a different message for their sons. But as a mother, we live in a different energy than male. That's a fine line to walk. I mean, I remember him playing flag football, and the mother and me would want to run when he get hit. But then you gotta kick up or find some testosterone somewhere, you know, because you don't want to raise, you know, you want him to, you know, be secure in himself, right? So the male side of me is like, no, shake it off. I'm crying on one side and strong on the other. It's like a fine line that you're constantly walking.
Absolutely. You know, the reason I love state of emergency, because, you know, we're discussing the problems, but Tamika's also discussing the solutions. You got these rules in this book, and you touch on so many different things. But one of the things I wanted you to talk about is how each of us, you know, what can we do to inspire unity and support for each other in our community?
Yeah, there has to be a way for us to put down some of the differences that we face, because, you know, unity does not mean uniformity, where everybody has to do the same thing exactly in the same way. And I think we get caught in that sometimes, where we feel like, well, you know, if I'm Muslim or I'm Christian or I'm, you know, from whatever background, that somehow that either it marginalizes us, and or we feel that we can't work with other people because we need it to be step by step by step on the same foot. And that's not realistic. It never has been. People come to me Charlamagne, and they say, well, you know, back in the days, they were more together. That's actually not true. There was tension between Dr. King and Ralph Abernathy and others who were leaders at that time. SNCC, we know, the Black Panthers. There's always been tension in movements, but they all had a common goal. And I always tell this one story that I think is so important in the film. It's a documentary, it's a documentary about the last few days of Dr. King's life and maybe the last few months. It's called King in the Wilderness. And people should check it out. If you've never watched it, you need to. It gives you a real understanding of when a person knows that their time is coming to an end because they've been fighting for freedom, and you see the challenges that he's going through. But there's this moment that he's walking in a march, and the reporter is asking him, you know, Dr. King, what do you think we should do? And he's like, you know, we've got to stay nonviolent and make sure that they hear our message, and let's, you know, walk together and be unified. And then they turn the microphone to Stokely Carmichael, who's walking right next to Dr. King. And he's like, burn it down, burn it down. And there's two different total ideologies there completely. But guess what? They're in the same march, walking in the same direction. They're working together. And I'm sure Dr. King is able to help them at times to calm down and realize there's another way to go. But then there's also moments when they push Dr. King to be more courageous, to speak out, to go harder. And I think that is the attitude that we have to approach this movement with, that none of us will be the same, but all of us are in it for the same reason. And if we take that approach, I think it will bring us together much more.
You know, y'all spoke about it earlier too, about how, you know, sometimes you have to fight against your own. I want to ask Mike, why do you think, you know, people go against things that are here for the benefit of us all?
I mean, it's many different reasons. You know, a lot of people, they fear what they don't understand. A lot of people see a strength that they don't have, and rather than congratulating you or trying to, you know, build with it, they envy it, right? And then a lot of people just don't know. We deal with people that have Stockholm syndrome. We deal with people who have unaddressed trauma. So our people are going to be the hardest to fight for because we have so many different issues that we're dealing with at any given time. So what I realized, a lot of our people don't know. A lot of our people have been lied to. They've been cheated. You know, we've grown up in situations where we've been taught to hate our own. Right, we literally have been taught to always hate your own, to question your own, to believe there's always some backstabbing situation from our community. So whoever chooses to get on the forefront and lead our community have to understand that those things actually come with it. And I think that when you look through our history, every one of our leaders had to take that same exact thrashing, and they had to take the abuse from the same people that they was trying to fight for.
Absolutely. Prabal, I want to ask you, you know, I'm sure you've read State of Emergency or some of it thus far. You know, what did you learn from it? Because, you know, you spoke about it earlier, being personally impacted, especially with, you know, everything that's happening in the Asian community. What did you learn from it? How are the struggles similar?
Sorry. Okay. I think, you know, for me, as I said, with the book also, and just like watching like Tamika and some leaders from the Black communities, and especially right now, what us, the Asian community, is going through, we have a lot to learn from the Black communities and Black leaders. And what I've seen is the absolute need for intersectionality. You know, like a real, true, honest intersectionality of like people coming together and understanding, and also within my own community, within the Asian community, a kind of accountability, acknowledging the anti-Blackness that exists there, you know, to having that hard conversation. Because, I mean, you know, I read somewhere, like, you know, there's something like, you know, anti-Blackness is an Americanization process for Asian family when they come to America. You know, that is a part of like the heritage. So in order to break that, you have to acknowledge that. And so for me, like, you know, I would say confronting our own anti-Blackness is the first step towards progress. I would say that, you know, beyond that, we must collectively decide that it's no longer culturally or socially acceptable. So within the community right now, what's happening is we are acknowledging the history of solidarity that existed before during Dr. King's time. And now how can we show up? Because what I've understood is this, is when we are fighting for our own groups only, progress is never going to be made. You know, who's going to still benefit are the colonists and the white supremacists. Okay, it's as simple as that. If we want to have a true, honest, a real, genuine progress, and we are going to get the seat at the table, as long as make our own decision-making table, the intersectionality, we have to work together. So that's what I think I took away from it. Like, you know, it was really, and, you know, Tamika, you missed it earlier. You know, for me, like, you've been such an inspiration. The way you lead the conversation in the culture. You have not just touched the African-American, the Black community, but the Asian community and everyone else. Because through your passion, we see us. Through your work, we've been able to see ourselves. Through your voice, through your words, we've been able to validate that. So I just wanted to let you know that. Yeah.
I appreciate that so much. And if it's okay for me to just say, you know, someone asked me earlier today, what do I think about what's happening to the Asian community and how can we work closer together? And I said, that's exactly what we need to be doing, is that there needs to be a true relationship that is not transactional, but that's real, that's deep. You know, that when you look at the Black community, we know better than anyone what it looks like to be targeted, to be abused. And I know for sure that it was really important for us to get the previous administration out of place and put a new administration in the White House, even though we don't always agree with everything there either. But it had to happen because the targeting is exactly why you see a rise in white supremacy and the abuse of many different communities. And right now, what we need is for more folks to understand that, wow, this is how it feels. We need the Asian community to say, this is how it feels. Now we need to go to the table with other communities and be steadfast and really in the struggle and fight, because we don't want to see anyone being abused in the ways that we've seen our Asian brothers and sisters being attacked recently.
Absolutely. You know, Tamika, in the book, you know, speaking of intersectionality, you always talk about the difference between allies and accomplices.
Right.
Could you explain a little bit of that now?
Yeah, you know, real simple here. You can be an ally and show up and say, I'm going home. I'm going to turn this off. You know, I don't want to watch that show tonight about, you know, I'm not going to watch the news this evening. You know, I'm going to go on a family vacation and walk away from it all. And really, you could actually return to spaces where there's still racist conversations. You could be working on a job where you see things happening to people of color and not do anything about it, but show up at a protest. Those are allies. And some of them are, you know, they really want and understand the role that they need to play, but they've decided that it's sort of, you know, it's temporary. They can kind of step in, step out. Accomplices are people who are prepared to sacrifice in order to be in the work. These are individuals who know that, you know what, I'm going to get uninvited from Thanksgiving dinner with my family because when my mom says something that is racist or disrespectful about another community, I'm going to speak up. I'm not going to wait and allow my human resources department, where I can clearly see that there are people of color getting passed up for opportunities and for promotions. And I know that I have the power to walk in there and say, this is not right. Those are accomplices, because guess what? People are not going to like it when you start speaking truth to power and showing that you won't be party to the oppression of another individual. That's an accomplice. And I'm not saying that we don't need allies. We need people who show up and do the things that they can, that they donate or invest, as Mysonne says all the time, in the work. But we really need people who put boots on the ground and say that this is going to be my life's mission. This is my passion. This is who I am. It's now become the thing that, you know, when you walk in the room, everybody knows, there goes so-and-so. We already know what they're going to be on. That's the type of energy that this movement needs in order for us to go in the direction that we're trying to travel. So I talk about it in the book. I give some examples and give people an opportunity to see themselves in an accomplice role versus just thinking because they've heard the word ally that that's a safe place to exist.
Mike, you look like you want to add on to that.
Yeah, man. You know, we definitely need a lot more accomplices because you need some skin in the game. You know, but we do need allies, And that's why this movement is so intersectional, because everyone is not going to be an ally. We acknowledge that. We acknowledge that everyone is not going to be on the front line with us. Everybody are not going to take the same risks. You know, they're not willing to die or risk their freedom or sacrifice major sacrifices. And some of those people that just want to tweet, that just want to show up to a march, they are needed. They're definitely needed. But what is required in this? We need allies, but we require, you know, accomplices, because we need people that's going to be on the front line. We need people to see a united front of the gradually growing piece by piece. You know, we're going to accept allyship as a growth to accomplish. You understand what I'm saying? Start out an ally, you know, but we want you to build up that courage to eventually be accomplished, because the accomplices are the ones that's going to really make the real change that's needed.
You know, when I look at somebody like Taraji, she's definitely an accomplice, you know, because she's always using her platform to speak out, you know, against injustice. Like, do you ever get pushback from people, Taraji? Like the powers that be in Hollywood, maybe?
I haven't seen any issues. I mean, I'm an artist. That's what we do. Mm-hmm. What you want me to? What's the point? What's the point of getting a mic if I'm not gonna have anything to say? Mm-hmm. I understand what art is for. Art is to shift things, to shift your thinking, to give representation where there is none, voices where there are none, tell stories that, you know, art is needed. Art saves lives, art changes lives. And that's why I do what I do. I'm very clear on why I do what I do. Very clear. And it's not for vain reasons. For my own, it may look like that to people who look up to me. Oh, she's a superstar, but I understand why God gave me this gift. I'm very, very clear on that. Mm-hmm. And if you pay attention to the characters that I portray, you'll see.
Mm-hmm. You know, Tamika, I heard Mike talking about this earlier, and it was interesting. Like, you know, he felt like he couldn't be a part of the movement when he first wanted to get involved. Like, he wouldn't be accepted. And you know, you had Cardi B write the foreword with Angela Davis, and she kind of asked the same question. What was the reason you put that together?
Well, first of all, I decided Cardi and Dr. Angela Davis were a good representation of me, just who I am. You know, any given Sunday, I'm like still a girl from Harlem, you know, still trying to figure it out. I don't always know all the right things to say. I'm not the person that graduated at the top of my class from Harvard. And, you know, I haven't studied all the parts of the movement, but I still believe in this work. And this is my passion. And when I see Cardi, I see the same thing. You know, I've been using this term that I know gets under the skin of some folks, but, you know, I believe that you can twerk and work. I think that she, you know, yeah, you know, I think she can. I think I heard my son say it earlier. You know, I think that, you know, Cardi is someone who people listen to. Like, we can play games all we want and be upset with her, but we should know that she has a lot of influence out here. And the fact that she's an entertainer on one side, but can also get on her live and say that what happened to a black man, black woman, brown man, brown woman to show up at a community center, to say I will be a part of a book like State of Emergency. For her to do those things shows where her character lies. And for me, that's extremely important. But I also know that she shares some of my concerns. She and I have actually talked about it. Sometimes she feels like, you know, I'm upset about an issue, but I don't know all the laws. I don't know what's the perfect way to go and discuss this. And that's the question that she's basically asking Angela Davis, and Dr. Davis is answering her in a fire way. And so I hope, well, first of all the folks who have paid to become a part of this event today will get the book, but you want to not just get the book, take it and make sure that young people and others get to read something like a foreword between two powerful women coming from different perspectives. But both of them, again, want to fight for the same thing. I'll say this, you know, Charlamagne, my entire book, what I wanted when writing it, and I kept changing things, and I got on, you know, people's nerves really bad, probably including yours, when they emailed you to say she hasn't turned in the pieces that she's supposed to have. But I was going through it, changing things to make sure that Ray on the street corner and the dentist and the lawyer and the CEO and the gentleman who's a deacon in the church, that all those individuals could read it and find themselves in the book. That's what my life has been about, and that's what state of emergency means to me.
You know, y'all do a great job, you know, you, Tamika, Mysonne, Untitled Freedom, of meeting people where they are, right? So how do you engage with people who haven't been activated by, I guess, traditional activism?
You can talk, Mysonne.
You want me to do it?
Yes.
I think for me, the method that I utilize, you know, and I feel like is effective, is not talking to people from where you are, right? Mm-hmm. Talking to them from where you were, where they are. You know what I'm saying? Not meeting. People say meet them where they at, but you have to go back to the time when you were them. And a lot of times, when we, even as adults, when we talk to our kids, we talk as the grown person, like, listen to me, boom, boom, boom. You don't know what you're talking about. And they don't receive that, because I didn't receive that. And I knew I would never receive that. So when I'm having conversations with people that come from Bronx, High Bridge, and they still in the streets, and I'm trying to introduce them to what this work is, I talk to them, okay, how would you have had to approach me when I was on this type of time? You know, because the preacher and the dude that came with the good tie and the dude I never seen outside coming to tell me to stay off the corner and telling me to do all these things, he didn't penetrate me. It was the hustler on the block, the dude that had all the stuff I wanted. When he came and he gave me the same jewels that those people gave me, I received them. So what I do is I understand that people need you to come as you are. They need to see, they need to identify with who you are. And when they see people like me and Tamika, you know they just seen us in Harlem. They just seen us in the strip club. I've been in the strip clubs with DJs, and they be like, "What you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm doing the same thing you're doing here. I came to the strip. What are you talking about? Oh, you ain't supposed to. Why? Who told you that, bro? Like, what are you talking about? Like, just because I don't want to see my people die, and I want to stand up for equality means that I'm not supposed to enjoy our culture. I'm of this culture." So I understand that. I understand that they want you to talk to them the same way. They need you to have the language. They need you to have the uniform that they have on. So that's how I do it, because I understood that was effective for me.
Absolutely. I wonder what resonates. With people more. Is it the traditional, you know, activism, or is it, you know, what Untitled Freedom is doing? What do you think, Prabal?
I'm sorry, I didn't get.
What do you think resonates with people more? Is it the traditional activism, or what Tamika does?
You know, I think we're in this place right now. I think the question you asked, Mysonne, earlier also, I always keep on thinking what I do with my work as a fashion designer. It's like storytelling. As creative people, right? Storytelling is our tool, and storytellers are healers. So when you're able to share your story, your struggle, your things that you've been through. For me, as a fashion designer, working in industry for almost 12 years on my own, I remember my whole conversation was, you know, I want to create a luxury brand with a soul. And the idea of soul was to see through my work, validate someone else in front of me. That concept in fashion industry, I was like, what the hell are we talking about? I remember 11 years ago when I was talking about diversity and inclusivity, and, you know, because I used to get told, well, you have 2 black models, 2 Asian models, that's it. You know, that was the kind of conversation we used to have. I kept on trying to change it, and I would get all these tropes like, oh, you're the angry one, you're a fucking fashion designer, what are you talking about? You know, the industry that I work, as much as I love, is deeply problematic also. There's no doubt about it. You know, it is a celebration of white supremacy. There's no doubt about it. And we have to call it out. So when I was calling out, I'll tell you, this particular moment, this book, sitting with all of you, having this conversation, I didn't think I would have an opportunity in my lifetime, to be completely honest, especially coming from a fashion background, right? So what I've understood was, every opportunity that I have, through the runway show, through the ad campaigns, everything, I am going to tell a story. I'm going to tell a story about and what I've understood is the biggest resistance to white supremacy and patriarchy is showing up in my full unapologetic glory. And that's what I've realized, and that's what I've understood, you know? So I would say storytelling is the most important thing, you know, rather than talking down to people, sharing their story. It opens up people. That's what I would say.
You know, Queen Erica Ford. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Tamika.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
You see Erica over there talking smack in the comments.
No, she's right though. She said there's no such thing as, you know, traditional activism. People always did what Tamika does, and I think that's a misconception, right? People think that you're doing something new. Like, activists used to look fly. Activists wrote books. Like, it's always been that. Like, why do people think it's a difference?
Well, you know, folks they only know what they've seen, you know, and if they weren't paying attention in the past and now they see something different and it was only one, you know, I guess when you look at the images of Dr. King and when you look at images of, you know, Dr. Dorothy Height and all the women, so many of them, Coretta Scott King, what you see is people who are dressed in the fashion of that time. And if you don't know that that's the fashion of that time and you're seeing it through the prism of today, you will think that that's old school. But it's not so much that it's old school. It's just that at that time, that's what people were wearing. So now a suit today, shoot, I look at people like, you know, Pastor Jamal Bryant, his suits, that's some bad stuff there. You know what I mean? So just to try to discredit somebody just because they have on a suit or just because they're not in the latest fashion, that's actually not a good model. However, I do understand it is a marketing strategy to have a certain appeal so that people can see the story, as Prabal was saying, so that they can feel connected to the person, they can feel connected to the issue. And I do think, you know, that as Erica is saying, that's always been the case. It's always been the case. So it's a continuation. We are passing the baton. Yes, we do things somewhat differently. I know when I was saying earlier about these young people that I'm so attracted to, they really have me in awe. They're very different even from me in some ways, you know, right? They are way more courageous. They're very, very bold, and they definitely do not see race the same way that we do. The people that they're working alongside are not always Black. And a lot of times in our movements at our age, the folks to the right and left of us are primarily people who look exactly like us that want the same things. These young people are working with folks from all different backgrounds who have joined the work and want to be with them. They understand that their battle is against white supremacy. They know clearly, and the ways in which they approach it is different, but still, they still have to come to us for the tactics that we use and transform them and bring them over into the movement that they're in today. You know, Mama would say there's nothing new under the sun. And I know my mom is watching tonight with my family, my dad, my sister, my niece, and so many others. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything is a continuation of what has happened before. But we just put a little different seasoning on it and, you know, repackage and brand it for the world.
Word. I want to ask each of y'all a question because, you know, I think the book is so timeless, state of emergency, because it's definitely been a state of emergency, you know, the past 365 days in a real way. How have each of you been personally impacted by the last year of social unrest? I'm going to start with Taraji.
I had to do a lot of work. I've had to call my therapist more than ever before. I was dealing with suicidal ideation thoughts. I found myself somewhere really, really dark, and I had to fight every day for myself. And I felt, you ever feel like you screaming but no one hears you? That's how I felt, but I was quiet. I wasn't screaming at all, but that's inside. And for me, what I did was, of course, a lot of therapy and a lot of work on self, but I had to start looking at why this happened. I'm a Virgo. I'm analyzing everything all the time. And for me, I learned acceptance. I learned patience. I also learned in a major way. I know people always say, look on the bright side of things, turn that negative into a positive. But I really had to practice that during this pandemic. And, you know, most people would say, oh, this was a horrible thing that happened. but in changing your perception of things, I saw so much good come out of this pandemic. Even in our movement, even in the movement, and the justice and fighting for justice. Like, imagine if there was no pandemic, we would have missed George Floyd. Meet me at the bar. I can't watch this. I'm going to zone out. I'm gonna tap out. You know, we could not tap out. No one could tap out.
That's right.
And what this pandemic did was level us all. I don't care how much money you had, you felt it. Okay. Everyone was tapped and touched by this pandemic. We were all leveled, and what it showed us is that we're all human.
That's right. That's right.
And all this material stuff can be taken just like that.
That's right. What about you, Prabal? How did the last year personally impact you?
It was when the pandemic started, and as a creative person, as an entrepreneur who's always like constantly doing things, that's a way of my therapy. Of course, I see a therapist also, but my way of all of a sudden I couldn't do that. Looking at it, something that I built as an immigrant, coming knowing no one, a business that I built that had a fragile future. It was very uncertain moment. But I will say this: to be able to have the privilege to live near Washington Square Park, Broadway, I could not escape all the protests that was going on. I had an opportunity to leave New York and go to, my summer house and all of that stuff. I decided to stay in New York. I let my family and friends and everyone go. I decided to stay in New York because what I understood was everything that I fought for in my industry to see the change, then all of a sudden the conversation was being had. Then just to see, I knew that individually, my voice was my voice, but collectively, I could add my body to the revolution that was happening. So to me, I just showed up. It was, yes, everyone was like, scared of like, okay, it's pandemic, everything. But I was just like, the absolute truth about our life is the impermanence. We have to go. What am I going to do while I'm living here? So, and then in New York, the whole topic was, New York is over, this and that, and then just to go around and seeing all these people coming together, and then my trans friends calling me and being like, hey, come to the West Side Highway. The West Side Highway, which had been so gentrified by avocado toast wearing, Lululemon wearing people, they all left, the gentrifiers had left, and to go and see these kids in this full-on fashion regalia, voguing and celebrating life, and everyone coming together. I was like, this is what resistance looks like. This is what it looks like. That unfettered joy gave me the courage to sit down, because I'd let go of my team. I furloughed my team. I sat down and literally, I kid you not, I started sketching. In the first 50 sketches, it was terrible. But it took me, by the time I finished it was like 500 sketches, and I did the collection on my own. So it was very cathartic. So what I realized in this particular moment was that the joy that I saw and that leads to optimism and hope is the ultimate resistance to the uncertainty, what we're facing through. And that I was capable of. And I keep on saying this to everyone. I said to my mother, I said, this has been the best summer of my entire life because I could see the global awakening and reckoning that's happening. So I'm very grateful for that.
Man, I love it. I love the fact that, I love hearing all this therapy talk. Strand Book Store just posted a link to therapyforblackgirls.com. They are a great resource for anybody looking for a therapist. I go to therapy all the time. Mice, we're going to get you into therapy. And
that's the only way to survive, to be completely honest.
Oh, man. Who you telling? Mike, how did the past year personally impact you? The social unrest in general?
I think for me, it was just seeing it. I think when you're doing a lot of the work all the time and you outside all the time, see right now I'm in the Bronx and they got the bodega music playing right now. So it's in the background. But just being forced to stay in your house and just see all of those things and just embrace it, and not really, because for a long time we weren't even able to do work. So we were on phone calls talking about all these things until we decided like, yo, you know what, we just can't sit in the house. Like, so I think seeing that and understanding how detrimental the times we were in and how serious they were, I think I became a lot more serious. I think it affected me. Like I was way more, just moving more, but I became a lot more serious about the conditions of the world. I seemed a lot more serious. A lot of people was like, yo, you way too serious. And, I was taking on trauma. I would find myself waking up crying just out of nowhere. Like I was really became real serious. And I think it affected me. It took away a lot of joy that I had, like a lot of time where I would just want to celebrate and have a lot of time and do a lot of fun things. I felt like everything was right now. We have to do something like we have to. I would come home. My wife would be like, "Yo, you gotta get away from this for a second. You gotta take yourself away from this." Because I would come home and be like, "Yo, did you see what just happened?" And she'd be like, "What are you talking about?" And I'd be saying, and she'd be like, "You just gotta just put the phone down. Just stay away. Don't look at these things for a minute." It really impacted me. I think over the year I became a lot more serious, and a lot more intense, and just really understanding that, even though this is my purpose, but that this is necessary. Like it is necessary that I don't want my kids to live in the same fear and the same trauma that I'm living in.
Yeah.
When I look at my sons, and that's another thing, waking up to them not going to school and just knowing I have 3 sons. I just had a grandson, you know what I'm saying? So it's just all boys here. So, I already fear my oldest 23-year-old son when he goes outside, and just understanding that. But just watching my 2 youngest sons that's with me, they so joyful. Like they kids that's just full of having, they don't even know a lot of this stuff, right? So just watching them transform, and then them asking me about COVID and having to wear masks, and then you start seeing some of their joy being stripped, right? These were kids that wanted to be outside. Now they don't even, now it's a fight for them to go outside. You know what I'm saying? So everything became way more serious for me, man. I think, and I think that's why I need to get some therapy, because I need to just unwind a little bit.
Taraji, please give him the website. Please, so you can get him a culturally competent therapist, please.
BorisLHensonFoundation.org. And like I put in the chat, we have a resource guide that can help you find culturally competent therapists all over. Because when you talk about therapy, you got to feel safe, right? You got to feel safe to go into the dark shadows of yourself, right? And not that therapy is dark all the time, but you have to feel safe, and cultural competency is important when dealing with people of color, right? You have to understand our struggles. If I get mad and do my neck like this, that don't mean I'm a sassy Black woman and I'm just attitudinal. I'm expressing myself, and I need to feel safe to do that. So please check us out. We've done a lot of research looking and finding these clinicians, therapists, psychiatrists, whatever you need in all 50 states. 51. How many states?
50.
I haven't been to school in a minute. I think it's 50 though.
50, something like that.
Tamika, what about you? How has the past year of social unrest personally impacted you? And I know we're about to wrap in a second, but
it's been a tough year. It's been a tough, a little more than a year, right in the midst of all of what we saw happening, the pandemic coming, things shutting down, the social unrest that I've been involved in for 25 years of my life. This is not new, but certainly having so many people be able to see it and coming to the movement, it can be tiring, but it's also encouraging. But it's sad that so many people had to die in order for folks to pay attention. So we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people who have died, in addition to Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Dante Jones. I mean, the names go on. George Floyd, Ma'Khia Bryant. I mean, there's so many, Mikel Rose, that have died just in the last few months, really, but over the last year. And to know that what it takes to slow down a nation, even the world, enough to pay attention to Black life and the murder of Black people, is that hundreds of thousands of people have to find themselves sick, people dying, families being torn apart, and that would awaken the moral consciousness. That's really, really depressing. It really is depressing. And while I'm with Taraji, you feel like you're crying. It's depression on one side, but it definitely brought people together. It had folks calling me like, hey, and I'm like, you remember I was trying to call you for the last 5 years, asking for support, asking for you to pay attention to these things. And it's like, you just continue to blow me off. But now today you're asking me, what can I do? What can I do? And you want the information right away. And and for a minute, I wanted to stop and say to folks, like, are you serious? But then I had to check myself. Shout out to the therapist. Thank God I have a therapist, which you told me some years ago, like, you have to be consistent with your therapist. And I am. And, one day I was having a conversation with him and he's like, listen, you're trying to do too much. You want to be mad at people because they weren't where they were supposed to be at the time. You want to, to try to challenge the system. You want to try to do family stuff. You're trying to do too many things, and you need to calm yourself and allow some things to just happen in its own natural time. And unfortunately, this is a natural time when people are coming to the work. So I feel it. But I also feel hopeful. I feel like people are beginning to really step up in a major way. And I think we just have to keep our foot on the gas and let folks know that we are in the best position possible to make a change. But it's not going to happen. No, there's no system. There's no White House. There's no administration. There's no, institution that's just going to fold because they like us or because it's cool. It's not going to happen. We're going to have to fight. And the harder we fight, the more we continue to push. I truly do believe this is a moment when we can actually accomplish a lot.
Absolutely. Salute to Erica Ford again. She said they're starting a 24-hour on-call therapeutic wellness team. And she definitely wants to partner with the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation. Sharif, jump in and tell me what we're doing. I know we've been on for an hour and 6 minutes. I don't want to exhaust everybody. What we doing?
Cool. So, well, first off, thank you, all of you, for such a powerful conversation, for making space for the topics you covered. Thank you, Tamika, for your book creating that space. I figured we could do a lightning round, very quick, one last audience question, and then we can wrap the event, as you covered most of the audience questions in the discussion. But the common theme which came up among the questions and in the chat is people asking for a tip on how to become more active in fighting for social justice. So perhaps if you could each give one piece of advice for someone who's outside of the realm of activists. And maybe, why don't we start with you, Charlamagne, and then go Prabal, Taraji, Mice, and then end with Tamika.
Just get involved the best way you know how. Everybody can't do what Mysonne does. Everybody can't do what Tamika does. They just special people. And if you look at any generation, it's some people that's on the front line, it's some people that's doing the organizing, and then there's other people, that are just here to play their part. When you read about Martin Luther King Jr., he had a big team around him, and it was entertainers, it was comedians, the Harry Belafontes, the Dick Gregory's. They were all in support of him and his movement. And I mean, for me, being a media personality, that's what I just try to do. I just try to use my platform to, help get their messaging out, whenever I can. So everybody just play their part. Like, don't look at somebody else and think, okay, I need to be doing what they're doing. No, find out what you can do, in your ecosystem to benefit the whole. Probably.
Oh, me. Okay, I was just saying. Okay. I would say, I agree with him, but I would say listen. Listening is a big key to understand what your role can be in the revolution. I think oftentimes people jump into it without, really understanding, especially because not everyone can do what everyone else is doing. The leaders that you're inspired by, you may not be able to do that. You may not just have the capacity, right? Or not the time. So listening, where can you find the courage to be uncomfortable? I always say that, have the courage to be uncomfortable and listen, and I think everything else will fall in place. That's what I've done. Like I've been really blessed with friends from different groups and different places, and just hearing their stories have really taught me. And just one thing, even tonight's conversation, I always deny myself the acknowledgement of my own pain and my own triggers, and just hearing you all talk about this so openly and honestly, just listening to that has allowed me to just literally, I'm walking away thinking, wow, I haven't allowed myself that, So I would say listening, yeah.
Just me.
Yes.
Just get in where you fit in. Some people donate money, some people donate food, some people donate time. I donate. I use my celebrity. To me, this is a form of being a part of the revolution. Being on this panel. So wherever way, me, I help with mental health. That's where I felt my strong point was, or where I could do the most work. And like I said, donate, because when we out here trying to change and shift the paradigm for us, it takes money, because we're fighting money.
Yeah.
That's real. That's real.
Amen. We definitely invest. I don't like the word donate, but invest.
Invest, that part.
That's right.
I invested in the North Star, places where you can just pay money and just take it out my account every month. Things like that. There's so many ways to get involved.
Amen. Well, I just want to say thank you to all of you people, and once again celebrate my sister on her book release, because I understand the journey and I understand the words in this. It's not just words. That's her heart that she put into this book. That's right. Put it up. My book is in the house. I'm at my mama's house right now, so I ain't even got my book here. But she need her book too. She said she need her sign.
I'm sorry.
You know
I'm
that.
on it.
You know that. So, but I just want to say, in order for you, just I have a spoken word that I say that I don't have the right to do nothing, and it's basically just do something, just do something, just find any entry point you can. We got people that cook, we got people that come to the marches, they give waters out. We got people that's legal observers. They just wear a thing and they make sure they see what's going down. We got people that take numbers, and when we get arrested, that give the numbers to the lawyers. It's so many different people that just tweet. They figured out how to tweet and make sure they get it to certain people. We got people that that stand there and they know the law. You look at George Floyd, this young girl who pretty much should be get the Nobel Peace Prize of the year, who just had, all she did was had her phone and made sure she didn't move. She stood there steadfast and got this information to make sure that justice got. So there's so many different entry points, and every one of you can contribute to the liberation and justice of our people. So don't ever believe that there's nothing you can do. There's always something. Just do whatever you can.
Always donate, because we got to bail people out.
That's right. That's right.
Or invest.
Erica she run in the chat. She said, before we leave this event, make sure y'all buy another book and give it to a young person or someone in prison.
That's real.
That's real.
In prison. Wow, that part. Someone in prison. It's funny because just today I was having a conversation with my team about how we can get books to people in prison, to people who are incarcerated. So we're on the same page. Erica Ford is one of my teachers. So, that's why you guys hear us singling her out. And there's so many people in the chat that I know and love and appreciate. But, again, Erica is one of my teachers. Let me just say that on this question, I fight for everybody's child all the time. That's what that's the place where I feel like God has put me. And when I hear that someone's child has been harmed in many different ways, it doesn't matter if it's gun violence that happens in our community, or if it is violence from someone outside of our community. I try to show up for as many people as I can. Clearly, I'm only one person, but I really do. I believe in that and try to support families. But the one child that I have not always done the best at fighting for is my own. That's where I have the biggest challenge in life is getting that right. And we're in a wonderful place now. We're working towards this space of understanding that I think is going to make for a great friendship, you know, as we go on. But the reason why I bring that up is because when people say, what can I do? One of the most challenging things you will ever face is dealing with the biases within you. So before you jump and say, I got to hit the march, I got to hit the streets, I'm going to be in the movement, you got to actually sit down and deal with your own stuff and the things, again, happening in your family, the things happening around you. Because if you can't challenge those issues, you're not going to be able to be your full self in the movement. And you can actually show up being, in some ways, I won't say hypocritical, but you certainly can be problematic because you haven't really recognized what it looks like to struggle with the tension that exists around you. So I think everything that everyone else has already said about jumping in, doing something and finding your space is important. But I have to say that self-reflection is probably one of the key, the most important components to getting in the movement, because when you dig in here, you will find the things that once you work on them, then you can go out and help other people in the world to deal with those issues. So I'm really preaching to myself because that's the relationship that I am now working on with my own child.
I gotta go, guys.
Amen.
I gotta be on a
Taraji,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I love you guys.
Thank you.
We all we got.
We all we need.
We all we need.
We all we need.
That's right.
Listen, thank you, Prabal. Thank you, Mysonne. Of course, the woman of the hour, Queen Tamika Mallory, State of Emergency. How we win.
That book. Buy two more. Buy two more
right.
before you leave.
It's out right now. Please tell a friend to tell a friend. Pass this information along. Tamika, we are glad that that you exist and that we exist in this moment with you. Thank you to the Strand Book Store. Thank you to everybody who purchased a ticket to be here on this event. How many people did we have, Sheree?
Oh, we're over 200.
Hey,
God bless. God is so
Look at God.
Thank you all very much.
We can't leave here without making sure that, you know, in my book, I say that I've acknowledged everyone, but the last acknowledgement, which is the most important, is my acknowledgement of how good God has been in my life. And so that's the deal with that.
That's right. All praise is due to God. And make sure you go to TamikaDMallory.com.
That's right.
To get the rest of the tour dates, because she's going to be on virtual tours for like what, the next week or two?
I'll be on virtual tours throughout the rest of May, and then beginning in June, Erica Ford and I and others will be on street corners in America, signing books and having conversations with our people.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everybody. Love y'all.
Thank you.
Love y'all.
Thank you, Strand. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.